Hey guys, the purpose of this video is to help you in formatting requirements for a paper in MLA. This year you'll be writing a lot of papers for me, and all of them will need to be formatted per this style. So what I'm going to do is give you the criteria for formatting, and then I'm going to walk you through step by step. So if you already know how to do these, then you'll just want to take a quick look at the requirements for the paper and then move on to formatting your document. But if you've forgotten or don't know how, then you'll want to watch the video to help you with that. Now, this year, when you format a paper for me in this class, your paper must be formatted as follows. You have to have 1-inch margins. You have to use normal text, Times New Roman font in a 12-inch pica. Do not use any special fonts, italics, bolds, or any colors in your formal essays. Your papers must be aligned to the left-hand margin. Now, there will be some exceptions to that, like your paper title will be centered. You'll have a running head and a header. And so I'll walk through all of those and what they are and explain how you format them. You do want to make sure that all your paragraphs, the very first line is indented, but then the rest of the paper should be aligned to the left margin. Your entire paper should be double spaced. You should have a running head on your paper, and then you should have a header. So again, if you don't know what some of these terms are, I'm going to walk through them for you. If you will, please go ahead now and open up a Google Doc, and we'll get started. Okay, at this point you should have a Google Doc opened up. What you see here on your screen right now is a sample of a student's paper, and this is what your paper ultimately should look like. So let me just review some of the things that were previously mentioned. Your entire document should have 1-inch margins. That means that as I follow along on the left-hand side, the right-hand side of your paper, and across the top and the bottom, there will be 1 inches. Now, what you see here won't necessarily denote a 1-inch margin at the top because of this ribbon, but I'm going to show you how to make sure it's there. You need to use Times New Roman. It has to be a 12-inch pica, and it has to be normal text. So you notice that all my fonts look the same throughout the paper. Your paper has to be aligned to the left-hand margin, so I'm over here on the left-hand margin and everything is over here. I do have some special formatting like a title and indentation, but other than that, you'll see that everything follows on the left-hand side. My entire paper is double spaced, so you'll see there's an extra space in between each line. Okay, just one double space, no extras, even throughout the paragraphs. If I were to scroll down through this paper, you'll notice between paragraph 1 and 2, there's still no extra space, just that regular double space. Your paper is going to have a running head, and the running head is what's at the top of the paper. It has your last name and the page number, and it's called a running head because this runs throughout your paper. You'll notice this says Smith 1. As I scroll down onto the different pages of my paper, notice now I have Smith page 2. And as I go down, I have Smith page 3. And that's why it's called a running head, because it runs throughout your paper. Now, finally, you will need to have a traditional MLA header on your paper. And that's this section over here, right here. Your header will have your name, my name, the class name, and the date. But we'll talk about how to do that. So again, you should have your blank Google Doc in front of you. We're going to go ahead and get started now. Okay, you notice here on my screen that I have my blank Google document open. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you title this document. So click up in the left-hand margin, click on Untitled Doc, type in your last name, and we'll say that this is Essay Sample. Okay, for future essays, it would read something like Would Essay 1, Would Essay 2, Would Essay 3, etc. Go ahead and click OK. And so now we've named this document here so that when we save it in our drive, we know exactly what we're looking for. Now, one of the very first things that we want to do is make sure that we have a 1-inch margin throughout the paper. All right. So what we're going to do is go to File up on our ribbon, click the drop-down box, scroll down to Page Setup, left-click that, and we want a 1-inch margin throughout. So notice that the 1 is the default here. Now, normally that should be the default, but I recommend checking it every time. Once you've confirmed you have 1-inch margins, hit OK. And now we'll move on to the next item. You need to make sure that the font that you use in your paper is always normal text Times New Roman and 12. So go back up to your ribbon. I'm scrolling from the left to the right. Notice that the style is normal text, so that's correct. This is Arial. It needs to say Times New Roman, so you're going to click on the drop-down box. Mine says Times New Roman right at the top. If yours doesn't, then you'll just want to scroll down until you find that. Click on Times New Roman. Click back up at the top, and we want a 12-inch pica, so open up the drop-down box, hit 12. And now, for the most part, everything we type is going to follow along in that text. Now, we're going to have to do a little bit of changing a little bit later, but we'll talk about that. The next thing is you'll want to make sure that your entire paper is aligned to the left-hand side. So what you're going to do is across your ribbon, you're going to scroll over until you see these align choices here. We've got left align, center align, right align, and then justify. Make sure that the left align is selected, and now your entire paper will be left aligned. Make sure that you don't center your paper on your page. Finally, next, you'll want to make sure that your paper is double spaced. So here on your ribbon, scroll over until you see this little choice. It has an arrow that runs from top to bottom, and that's your line spacing. Open up your drop-down box, scroll down to double, select that, and now your paper is set for double spacing. So just to recap, make sure that you've named your paper, make sure that you've selected 1-inch margins through your file menu. We have normal text, Times New Roman, 12-inch pica, should be left justified, and double spaced. Now let's go ahead and include our running head, which will run throughout the entire paper on page 1, 2, and 3. What you're going to do at this point is you're going to scroll over to your ribbon, click on Insert, open up that drop-down box, and then you're going to scroll down until you get to page number. Okay? When you run your cursor over page number, you've got 4 choices there. They show up kind of light, but if you scroll over, you'll see the one that's at the very top left. It shows me that my page numbers will be put at the top right margin of my paper, so click on that. And then notice up here that it's included the page number, and I've got a cursor that's blinking. Now, our running head has to include our last name and the page number, but the last name has to come first. So what I'm going to do is go to my keyboard. I'm going to arrow my cursor over so that the cursor is on the left-hand side of my number, and I'm going to type in my last name, make sure I capitalize it, put in a space, and now I have a running head. Now notice that right here across your paper, it has this header kind of sectioned off for you so you can see that it's correct. You're going to click down anywhere in the body of your paper. Okay, so notice I clicked down, and so that line disappeared, and now I have a running head. So from this point forward, your pages will be numbered automatically for you by Google Docs. The next thing that you're going to do on your paper is include an actual header. All right, so the header should be on the left-hand side. Notice that my cursor is blinking over there. You're going to type in your full name, first and last. Make sure you've capitalized it appropriately. Next, you're going to type in your teacher's name. In this case, it would be Miss Wood if I'm your teacher. Hit Enter. Now you're going to type in the name of your class, English 10, English 11, any of that's correct. Hit Enter, and then you're going to type the date. Now, the correct formatting for the date would be to put the day, space, the month, make sure you capitalized it, and then the year. Okay? So on my header, not my running head, but my header, I've got my name, the teacher's name, the class name, and the date. And once you're done with that, you hit Enter. Now notice that my entire paper is being double spaced, and that's exactly what I want. At this point, your title of your paper would go here. Now, students always ask me, do I have to have a title? So just know, invariably, for every paper that you write, you need to have a title. What I try to do is just put a marker here to remind myself I need to go back and do the title, because I might not know what the title is yet. So I'm going to just type in, put title here. Okay, And I'm going to hit enter, and this is where I would begin typing my paper. Now, there are a couple more things that we need to do before we finish out our video. You need to know that the title of your paper actually should always be centered. So go ahead and take your cursor and put it back in front of where your title would be. Notice that this right here would be my hypothetical title. All right, so I've highlighted, but you can just simply put your cursor there. It's blinking. You're going to go back up to your ribbon, go over, scrolling, past the left align to the center line and click on that. And notice that it automatically puts your title in the center. So that's exactly how you want it to begin. Now, I want to go back down here. I said that you'd begin typing your paper here, but we all know that when you start a new paragraph, every paragraph has to be indented. So you'll want to make sure that you actually hit your tab key on your keyboard, and that would actually tab the first line of each paragraph over. You need to make sure that you do that. So let me go back to the student sample just to show you again what that would look like. Okay, so notice up here on your screen, I have my student sample paper back. Notice that I have my running head up here, and if I scroll down to multiple pages, you see that each one of them are numbered. There's Smith 2, there's Smith 3, so it's exactly what I need it to look like. Notice that it's got that 1-inch margin. Everything's aligned on the left-hand side except for things that shouldn't be, such as my title, which has been centered. The first line of each paragraph, notice that's indented. If I scroll down to the next paragraph, you'll notice that's indented as well. And you see that throughout the paper. Notice that I have my header, which has a student name, a teacher name, a class name, date, and what have you. So that's how you're going to be formatting your paper. Now, we are going to be doing other types of papers this year, so there's going to be more to come. We're going to go over formatting a research paper and adding a works cited page on different videos throughout the year, but for now, just make sure that you've got all those requirements and you are good to go.